All right. So we're going to build this exciting project. This is going to be our very own chatbot. Okay, this is going to be a fully functional chatbot. And to challenge myself, I'm going to try to build it in 15 minutes or less. Okay. To be honest, I have no idea if that is enough time to build a chatbot, but I just want to prove to you that it's really not as complex as people make it seem like it is. And so in that case, I'm going to try to build it in as little time as possible. It might be less than 15 minutes, over 15 minutes, who knows? But we're going to target 15 minutes. Okay. Going to try to put as much features in it as possible within the 15-minute time frame that we have. Okay. So to get started, we're going to need three things. Okay. First, we're going to need to install an editor. Okay. In my case, I already have VS Code on my computer. So we're going to use that. Keep in mind that you don't need to be a great developer, or you don't even need to have good knowledge of code in order to build this project. I'm going to try to make it as beginner friendly as possible. So whether you have little knowledge of code or no knowledge of coding, you should still be able to complete this. Okay, so now that we have our editor, we're also going to need the Python installation. You just simply need to install Python on your computer. And then finally, you need to create an OpenAI account, okay? Because we're going to be using ChatGPT to power our chatbot, okay? And in order to access ChatGPT through the API, you need an API key, which we're going to need an account for. Okay, so enough talking. Let's get started. And before we do that, let me just set a quick timer so that at least don't go overtime. Okay, starting now. Okay, so the first thing is VS Code. As you can see, I have VS Code here. I have Python also installed on my PC. And now you need to create that OpenAI account. And for the sake of time, we're not going to go through that much detail on that. I'm sure you can find out how to do that. It's a very simple, straightforward process. I already have one account here, so we're going to use this. And in order to create that account or to access that, we're going to go to platform.openai.com. Okay, this is the website we're going to go to. If you go into this website, it brings you directly to this page over here. So we're going to go to Developer Quick Start. And this is basically going to be our initial project, or what we're going to create to test the setup of this API calling. Okay. So as you can see, there are three main components. First is to create and export that API key. The next part is to make that API request. Okay. Before doing that, we'll make sure we run that command to install OpenAI, and then finally the code. Okay, so first step, exports or creates that API key. And as you can see here, we have two options, whether you use a Mac, Linux, or Windows. You just click the appropriate one. In our case, I'm using a Mac, so this is the command I'm going to use. And as you can see here, it's asking for my API key. To get that API key, you go to settings and then API keys right here. Okay. So I'm going to create a new key just for this project. I'm just going to call it AI chat project. Uh, cat chat. Okay. So it doesn't really matter what you name it, as long as you give it some type of name. And keep in mind that this key, you will need to copy it and paste it somewhere. Okay. Um, And that is because once you leave this page, you won't have access to this key again. In order to get access to another API key, you'll have to delete and then recreate a different API key if you want a new API key. So I'm just going to copy this and put it in my notepad here. And I'm going to go back to our steps that we were, oh, let me make sure actually, yeah, I did create it. Okay, so going back to our quick start. And as you can see here, we're going to have to run this command here. So I'm just going to first put the command in my notepad. So it will look something like this: export open API key equals, and then the API key. Okay. So let me just copy this. And yes, we need to create that file. So first, let me just drag this empty folder here. This is where all our files for our project is going to be located. And I'm going to call my Python file chatbot.py. Okay. And let me just save this and just to make sure there's no issues. Okay. It's running fine. So here in the terminal, this is where we're going to put that API key that we created. So I'm just going to copy this command, going to paste it in here. There we go. So now we've set up our API key, and now we're going to make that API request. In this case, we're using Python, so I'm going to select Python. I'll copy this command that we're supposed to put in our terminal, pip install OpenAI. So since we're going to be using OpenAI, we need to install that module here in our VS Code. So I'm just going to run that command. Okay, so that is done. And then finally, we are going to our third step, which is this right here, the main code for our chatbot. So I'm just going to copy this and we're going to paste it in here. This is the code. And I'm going to save this and then run it. Okay, so I just run it without actually telling you what it's supposed to do. Um, and this might look like some gibberish to you, but at least we know that there's no errors. Okay, so now I can go over what this is actually supposed to do. So here we are basically using this ChatGPT 4.0 model. You can always change it to a smarter model or something that is not as smart but very fast. It depends on your preferences. In our case, we're just going to use this model right here. And here we have two different roles. We have the user, and then we have the system as well. Okay, I'm just going to put it all on one line so that it's a little bit more easy to see. So in our roles, sorry, we have system and then we have user as our roles. Okay, the system is basically the overall instruction of what the chatbot should look like. Okay, so this is just a general instruction that you're giving the system. And then the user is basically you as a user, the prompt that you want to provide that chatbot. Okay. And then we have another role called assistant, but we'll go into that more detail once we cross that bridge. Okay. So um in this case, I'm just telling the chatbot that it should just behave as a useful or helpful assistant. And then this right here is a prompt that I'm giving the chatbot to write a haiku about recursion in programming. Okay. Well, it's not that interesting, but okay. Um, and if you notice, it did provide us with a response here. This is the response that we received. And it says content, and then function calls itself, blah, blah, blah. This is the message that we're receiving. And then it has some extra data that we don't really care about. Okay. So just to get this part of the message or the response that we care about, we're going to specify that we want just the content. So in our print statement here, right after message, I'm going to put content. Okay, so let's save and run again. And now as you can see here, we get a more user-friendly output. Okay, so this is a haiku about functions. And just to show you some variation, this is going to be in my content. I'm going to put something else. Okay, I'm going to put a different prompt. Let's say, um, hmm, what is the best car to purchase for under $6,000 or something like that. Okay, so now if I run this, oh, let me save that first. Okay, well, it doesn't really matter. Um, and now as you can see, the response here includes uh, some information about the best cars to purchase in that budget range. Okay, so as you can see, now we have a functioning chatbot. Okay, and I only have a few more minutes left, so I'm just going to make this a slightly better chatbot. And to do this, instead of putting the prompt here manually like I just did, I'm going to replace this with a variable called prompt. And I'm going to request this as an input. Okay. So now if I run this, it's going to be more dynamic. So it's waiting for my input. I'm going to put what is 4 to the power of 3. And I type it directly into my terminal. And then as you can see, we get the correct answer here, 64. Okay, so now we have a fully functional chatbot. And that took us what? I don't even know what time it is now, probably about 12 minutes tops. And that's all it took to create this chatbot. And of course, we can always improve on this chatbot, but at least now you know that it's not that much of a daunting task to create a chatbot. If you have 12 minutes, you can create a simple chatbot. And whatever questions you have, you can just provide to the chatbot directly in your terminal. Okay. But of course, we can improve on this chatbot. We can make it better. Okay. As a matter of fact, right now the chatbot is just not that exciting. I mean, it could be exciting to you, but for me, it's we can make this better. So with the time that since we have some time left, let's just improve on this. So we're going to make it so that this chatbot, we don't need to hit run each time we need to provide a new statement. Okay. And we're also going to make the chatbot more, have some more personality. Okay. So to do that, we're just going to let's call this hmm, let's make this a Donald Trump bot. Okay. So we're going to assume that we're speaking to Donald Trump here. Okay. So let me just change the system here. We're going to say you are Donald Trump, therefore you must respond like he would in the same speaking style. Okay. So now we're giving our chatbot some personality. So let's run our code. Oh, it's waiting for a prompt. Yeah, I just put how are things. So we're asking Donald Trump how are things. Let's see what he says. Things are tremendous, folks. Really tremendous. We're looking better than ever. Believe me, the economy is coming back. People are loving what we're doing. The best is yet to come, folks. Just wait and see. Sounds like something Donald Trump will say. You know, even though we've given our bots some personality, we can improve it further. Okay. We don't want to hit run each time. We just want the conversation to be flowing. Okay. So to do that, we're going to have to add some type of a loop in our chatbot, a while loop. Okay. So we can keep the conversation going until yeah, I say exit or end or something like that. Let me just restructure this. Okay. So first, what I'm going to do is just move this messages here. And the reason why I'm putting this here is so that we don't need to tell the system each time what it's supposed to do. Okay, we're going to create a loop, but this part doesn't need to be in the loop. Okay, we just need to mention it once. And then, like I mentioned, we're going to create a loop. So that loop is here. We'll just say while true. And we're going to get the user's input inside this loop. Okay, so everything that we have here so far, we're going to put in that loop. Let's just say user, just to make this more descriptive. Okay. And we want to end this loop if the user enters exit or quit. So if the prompt, and if that is the case, we're going to break out of this loop. So we're going to do messages dot append. We're going to append this right here. There we go. And now, instead of doing this, you can use this, which is going to keep adding our prompts in this loop. We're just going to put it right here. So messages equals messages. Okay, since we already have this here. Okay, now we're going to store the response that we get from Trump, which previously we're printing here. So I'm just going to copy the same thing and put it right here. What we're going to print is going to be this response. And the reason why I'm separating it is because I want to add this text right here that says Trump. Finally, like I mentioned before, we have a third type of role, which instead of system is going to be assistant. Okay. So any response we get back from the ChatGPT API, we can append it to our messages as an assistant. So I'm just going to create a new role. User is going to be assistant. And then the content is going to be this response over here. And just in case I lost you, let me just go over this one more time. So this is the full code. There are three different types of roles. There's a system, which is the overall instruction that we would initially give this chatbot. Okay. This sets the stage. So That's why I don't need to put it in my loop. I just need to uh, write it once. And then in my loop, or each time I create a prompt, I'm going to add it to this messages. Okay. And I also need to add the response that I receive from this API call to the messages so that I can keep the history of the conversation. Okay. So each time this loop runs, I'm adding both what the user or myself is adding and also what the chatbot is responding. I'm adding all of that to this messages variable over here so that the chatbot has the history of everything that is going on. That way we can have more of a conversation and not just a one and done kind of question and answer kind of thing. Okay. Okay. So right now, let's test out this code. I don't know if it works yet, but it looks like logically it should. So let's try this out. Just gonna say, hey, just keep it simple. And then as you can see, Trump says, hey there, great to see you. What's on your mind? We've got a lot to talk about, believe me. And I'm going to say, um, how do you plan on securing the border? And now it gives me a response. Let me tell you, folks, securing the border is top priority. It's absolutely critical. We need a strong border. It's all about safety and security. We're talking about building that wall, a big, beautiful wall. Oh, yeah, sounds like something Trump will say. And I'm going to say, so who is going to fund that wall? So I'm continuing the conversation. As you can see, it continues on as well. Let's just say we're going to make it happen, folks. We already have many ways to fund it, including cutting wasteful spending elsewhere. You know how the government works. A lot of money goes to things they don't, blah, 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 blah. So you get the point. Right now, we have a fully functional chatbot that can hold a conversation and we can talk for as long as we want with this chatbot, and it keeps memory of what um, our conversation is about. Okay. And we could end it here, but you know what? Since we already have this going and we're making some good significant progress, why not add a UI or make this look, visually appealing? Because we don't want to continue to type everything here in our terminal. Okay. So let me just stop this. And you might remember I mentioned that whether we type quit or exit is going to stop this loop. So I'm just going to put quit. There we go. See now our program ends. So I'm going to copy what we have here. Okay. And this is also going to be very quick. Okay. Open ChatGPT over here. Okay. And keep in mind that you don't even need to go to ChatGPT to do that. You can also do that in the playground over here. Whatever I'm doing in ChatGPT, whatever message I type here, you can also type it here. It will do the same thing. Okay. The only difference here is that you can probably select more intelligent models and so forth in this playground over here. But just to make it look visually pleasing, I'm going to use this ChatGPT interface. Okay. And also it's free. What I'm going to say, it's a very simple command. I'm going to say create a UI for the following program using tkinter. Depending on how you want to create this, you can use using HTML or something like that. But because we're doing this in Python, and just to keep it simple, I'm going to use tkinter, which is a Python module. So all I'm going to do now is copy this code right here, paste it in here, and let's see the response we get. All right. I trust that this code works. I mean, we can go through the explanation later, Keep in mind that the results you get may vary. Okay. Of course, this is using ChatGPT, and the responses are not always consistent. So we're just going to copy what we got here and then just overwrite this. So I'm just going to paste this in here. Yeah, enough talking. Let's go ahead and run this and let's see what we get. Interesting. I'm assuming this is where you type the message. So let's see. Hey. Okay. I see. So whatever you type here, you get the response in that box over there. So me, what keeps you up at night, or what you stress about? And as you can see, you get the response here. A lot of things keep people up at night, but for me, it's really about the future of our great country, blah, 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 economy, jobs, yada, yada, yada. I mean, if you're not happy with this UI, you can always regenerate a new one. Okay. The beauty of this is you can just keep hitting regenerate until you find something that you actually like. As you can see, we built a fully functional chatbot in basically 12 to 13 minutes. And then we spent a little bit more time to make it more responsive or more interactive and more visually appealing. The more time you put into creating your chatbot, the more interesting it would be. Okay. And the whole objective of this video is to show you that nowadays, it doesn't take that much time to build fully functional programs. Okay. With the help of AI, we can create some fairly intelligent programs in a short amount of time. I'm curious to see what type of programs you can develop. Okay. Go ahead with this knowledge, try to create your very own chatbot. And if it's interesting, share it with me. I may even feature it in an upcoming video. And if you like this video and you want to see more like this video, make sure you click like. And if there's any interesting projects that you want to see me build in a short amount of time, feel free to leave it in the comments and I will try my best to get to it. All right, so that is all. I hope this has been both educational and interesting and valuable to you. Have a good one.